How well do you know Matt Damon? When Matt Damon and Ben Affleck won the Oscar for Best Screenplay, people were more than a little skeptical. Who were these two punks from Boston and what do they really have to offer? Affleck in particular was targeted as a mediocre talent. Damon had already cemented his reputation as a solid actor in numerous films, but Affleck had much more to prove. There was even concern at the time that their seeming inseparability might be an issue. Now, 20 years later, both have established themselves as two of the biggest draws in Hollywood, and Affleck has seemingly taken the mantle from Robert Redford as a solid director. Damon has connections to major action blockbusters, but also makes time to star in deeply personal projects, usually successful in both areas. If ever Boston had a success story, it was these two kids. And no one saw them coming. Damon attended Harvard, but dropped out to take his first major film role. His talent wasn't overlooked, and soon Steven Spielberg cast him in the titular role in Saving Private Ryan. Both Affleck and Damon have taken strong political stances, being outspoken during the war in Iraq and since in issues from Islamaphobia to fracking. Their influence has not gone unnoticed. But whatever your politics, it's hard to deny the raw talent Damon possesses. So how well do you know Matt Damon? Take the quiz below to find out. Q14. In what film does Damon play an energy analyst? After the success of Traffic, screenwriter Stephen Gaghan made his directorial debut with Syriana, a sprawling, complex multi-story film about the oil industry. Some argued the film was almost too complex for its own good. The title itself requires explanation, derived from Pax Syriana, the necessary state of peace between the U.S. and Syria for the oil business to thrive. Damon's story is that of Brian Woodman, sent to meet an emir during a party. After his son is electrocuted in the pool, Woodman manages to land a major oil contract for his company. Q15. What action franchise is associated with Damon? Damon first played Robert Ludlum's Jason Bourne, an amnesiac spy, in The Bourne Identity. Before being cast, Brad Pitt, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Russell Crowe, and Tom Cruise were all considered for the role. After he accepted, Damon underwent extensive training in order to perform his own stunts. He had never taken on such a physically demanding role. 4 films later, the original TV adaptation of The Bourne Identity starring Richard Chamberlain is all but forgotten. Damon now owns that role. Q16. What film does Damon appear as Bachelor Number 2? Bachelor Number 2 sounds like an early role for an up-and-coming star, but in fact it was a role he took as a favor for his friend George Clooney. Clooney was directing an adaptation of TV host Chuck Barris' mostly fictitious memoir Confessions of Dangerous Mind. Barris had hosted the dating game in the 70s the entire time, he alleges, acting as a spy for the government. It was Clooney's directorial debut, but he comes across as a seasoned professional. It also features a standout performance from Sam Rockwell as Barris. Q17. In what Farrelly Brothers comedy does Damon appear? Audiences quickly tired of the Farrelly Brothers. Their first 2 films, Dumb and Dumber and There's Something About Mary, Kingpin is disqualified as they did not write it, were enormous hits and still very much a part of the pop culture lexicon. By the time Me, Myself, and Irene came along in 2000, it was clear they were one-trick ponies, gross-out comedies that were good for a laugh upon first viewing, but didn't have any lasting impact. In Stuck on You, Damon and Greg Kinnear try to garner laughs as conjoined twins is surprisingly one of their less offensive works, though it's not particularly funny. Q18. In what film did Damon make an unlikely cameo? Eurotrip, the uber-sexist bro movie that's a sort of sequel to Road Trip, opens with the lead character being dumped by his girlfriend. The friends then attend a concert in which Damon is the lead singer. The band's song, Scotty Doesn't Know, clearly details the ways in which the main character's girlfriend was cheating on him with Damon. If you overlook the sexism, there's a charming, aloof shagginess to the picture that keeps it brisk and easily digestible. Damon's willingness to appear is a bit of a surprise, but he certainly is a highlight. Q19. What Kevin Smith film marks Damon's last appearance with the director, so far? Jersey Girl was viciously torn apart by critics upon release, and there's little to defend except to say that it displays an underlying current of sentimentality behind Smith's often smug, ironic dialogue. By no means does that mean it's a good film. It's terrible. It marked the moment in Smith's career when he decided to speak out publicly against critics, claiming he doesn't make films for them. He's remained true to his word. Every film he's made since has been widely hated by critics. Damon plays a nameless PR executive. Q20. In what Terry Gilliam film did Damon co-star? Damon and Heath Ledger play Wilhelm and Jacob Grimm, respectively, in this week Gilliam film. While the visuals are interesting, the script is downright terrible. Aaron Kruger began his screenwriter career with Arlington Road, wrote the worst of the Scream franchise, Scream 3, and now seems to work exclusively for the Transformers franchise. In between, he sold the Brothers Grimm as a spec script. Essentially, Damon and Ledger play 18th century Ghostbusters, usually conning people with fake magic until they come across a real witch. Gilliam is worthy of better than this. Q21. What film told the story of the creation of the CIA? Robert De Niro has only directed 2 films. The first, A Bronx Tale, was a quaint story about a boy torn between a local gangster and his father. The Good Shepherd was much more ambitious, with a script from Eric Roth that spans 3 decades and an enormous cast. Like his first film, Shepherd is still very much about fathers and sons, but the backdrop is broad and complex. The intricate work from Roth and De Niro only demonstrate that the actor should step behind the camera more often. It also features a rare late appearance from Joe Pesci, clearly just doing a favor for his friend. Q22. In what film does Damon portray real-life criminal Mark Whitaker? Steven Soderbergh's The Informant is one of Damon's most accomplished and funniest roles.
So the last time you were here,
as Whitaker, who embezzled at least $9 million while concurrently serving as a whistleblower against his own company for another scandal, Damon is terrific. He has stream of consciousness thoughts that make no sense and carries himself with an air of self-importance while still being pathetic. He's a man who, in his own mind, is living as the protagonist of a John Grisham novel, yet while at the same time he's the villain. It's a high-wire balancing act and Damon almost makes it look easy. Q23. What film saw Damon re-team with Bourne Supremacy director Paul Greengrass? Damon chose to do Green Zone over several other lucrative offers.
This time,
the film sparked a large political debate. Veteran and critic Kyle Smith called it un-American. In the film, Damon's character goes against orders, albeit orders given by a corrupt Department of Defense official. The real-life inspiration for Damon's character, however, called the political reaction completely overblown. Nevertheless, it didn't do well at the box office, though most critical reaction was positive. Q24. In what film does Damon play a bounty hunter? The Coen Brothers. Remake of the John Wayne classic True Grit isn't so much a remake as it is a more faithful adaptation of the 1968 Charles Fortis novel. The difference between the two is entirely a matter of perspective. The first adaptation is told mostly from Rooster Cogburn's Wayne, later Jeff Bridges' perspective, but the novel and second film is seen through the eyes of the young girl who hires Cogburn to kill the man responsible for her father's death. Damon plays the role originated by Glenn Campbell, a cocky, young bounty hunter also on the trail of the murderer. Q25. What Cameron Crowe film starred Damon? Cameron Crowe entered filmmaking when his based-on-true events novel was turned into the film Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He then made Say Anything, in which a young John Cusack spoke for a large part of the generation, those whom John Hughes never wrote about. His career was in an upswing throughout the 90s, scoring hits like Jerry Maguire and his most personal film, Almost Famous.
Are you clear on what's happening?
Then,
I believe I'm clear on
he
what's
started to slip.
I think I might be able to hit
Vanilla
all of
Sky
them.
wasn't as well received,
but
still stands as one of the better sci-fi films of the early millennium. He fell hard with Elizabethtown, a confounding family drama that performed disastrously. By the time We Bought a Zoo, starring Damon, came around, Crowe's reputation had been sullied. He has yet to recover.